This course is an introduction to the functionalities, hours, and expenses of the Time and Expenses module in Assistance PSA. It is the next step after the timesheet tutorial and, as such, should be completed following this order. At the end of this course, you will have an understanding of the main features of the functionalities, hours, and expenses, and the standard validation process integrated in the Time and Expenses module of PSA. In the previous tutorial, you have learned the many ways to enter hours and expenses in the timesheet of Assistance PSA. There is yet another option. You will find it in the same module as your timesheet, but under the functionalities of hours and expenses respectively. It will let you create entries as detailed as in your timesheet, but will also provide you with additional features. The most significant being the ability to book time and expenses for a person other than yourself, as well as to modify someone else's entry. Two options that will become especially important in the overall validation process of Assistance PSA. This diagram illustrates how PSA actually gives you the ability to closely monitor any time or expenses entries posted to your projects, as well as to make any necessary changes. From the moment the entries are created, up until when they are invoiced to the client. The validation step is, of course, where you will analyze hours and expenses booked to projects. Depending on the setup of your security roles, you may even be able here to directly modify entries made by a person other than yourself. One important note to keep in mind, however, is that if you are not a project manager or a business unit manager, you can only modify a record that is not approved. And in such a case, any correction you want to make once a record has been approved will need to be done via a new entry with the correct information and a second entry with a negative amount towards the original record information. The approval steps are two options that can be activated in the settings of your organization. PM approval will require the project managers to approve hours and expenses made to their projects. And once a project manager approves an entry, the employee will no longer be able to modify it. Administrative approval will require the business unit managers to approve entries made to projects within their business unit. And once a business unit manager approves an entry, neither the employee nor the project manager will be able to modify it. The two options are not mutually exclusive, and they do not have to be both activated. You can decide to have only one approval step in your process. If both options are activated, best practice is to have the project management approval take place prior to the administrative approval. The other way around, however, is also possible. Assistance PSA does not attribute an order to either one of the approval options. It basically leaves you all the possible flexibility to manage the process as you see fit. You can set up workflows to send approval alerts. Best practice, however, is to display the entries to be approved directly in your dashboard. This will provide you with instant visibility and prevent overcrowding your inbox. Whatever option you choose to activate, keep in mind that the hours related to the time and material items of your projects will then need to be approved in order to be invoiced. The next step is a standard functionality in Assistance PSA, and it is available whether there is an approval step in the process or not. With this option, Assistance PSA allows you to put hours on hold and prevent them from being invoiced automatically when they are related to a time and material record. It constitutes the last validation step before invoicing your projects. One final note with regards to this process. These three steps are all independent of one another, and they are also entirely optional. This means that you can execute all three of them, just two, or only one. You can even decide not to perform any one of them at all. It is up to you to determine what best corresponds to your business process. This completes the introductory course on hours and expenses. Your next step will be to complete all three tutorials on the different features of both functionalities.